I know you'll have many new questions for me. About my identity, about my goals. But I am still the same Reed.
Hello everybody, my name is Ludwig and this is Operator Overview. The operator I'll be reviewing is Reed the Flame Shadow. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Reed the Flame Shadow is a medic of the Incantation branch, trait of the archetype. Attacks deal arts damage and heal the HP of an ally within attack range for 50% of the damage dealt. Think of Reed as a mix of a core caster and a medic without being either one. First, she has to have allies within her attack range. Her attack range is the same as a marksman sniper, think Exusia or Cruz. So it's not too far, but her range is a little bit further than other operators. She has to have allies within her attack range to heal, but she also has to do damage to heal at all. So unlike a medic, like a Alter or Nightingale, she cannot just heal by herself. She has to attack just like a core caster does, like Logos or Aya. So it's a weird mix. The biggest downside of the trait is that if there are enemies and they're defeated before she can attack them, she can't heal at all. She has to actually do damage. So if, let's say you have other units and the other units defeat the enemies as they're coming through, if she doesn't attack anything, she's not going to heal anybody. So you can basically negate her entire kit, basically, if you have enough damage. So also, because she can't heal any units until she attacks, ranged enemies can be a big problem. Ranged enemies typically can fire from whenever they show up, and they can whittle away your operator's health over time. So if you have an operator and they're just sitting there, unlike a normal medic who can heal that operator whenever they take damage, Reed cannot heal anybody until she does damage. So that means she has to have an enemy in her range to do the damage too. So that the ranged enemies can whittle away your health and you could be defeated and she can't do anything about that. Other than that, her base stats are okay. Her max HP is quite low. Her defense is very low. Nightingale, another medic who's very fragile, also has better defense than her. That's saying something. Her resistance is good though, but because of her low max HP, 20 res, arts damage typically is they hit the most. Arts damage does a lot of damage. Typically when arts threats show up, it does a lot. So the 20 res is nice to lower that damage, but if it's still more than her max HP, she's still gonna be defeated. So other than that, she has redeployment time 70 seconds, DP cost, the block count 1, her attack interval. Alright, moving on. Operator profile. Reed is from the faction Dublin. Her operator description: from a mired land returns Reed, a warm flame in her grasp. Operator quote: now she recognizes herself as the Red Dragon of Tara, and in bearing those humblest of ideals, she is illuminated. Profile: Reed previously applied to withdrawal while stationed at a Rhodes Island branch office in southern Victoria, and has only recently re-established contact with us, presently actively leading a small force within Victorian borders under Dublin's name, with her primary objective being to aid those Terrans forcefully displaced. Terrans. Character voice: Ian Martha McIntosh, and I'm going to try to pronounce this correctly. Mamiko Nodo for Japanese. Alright, so before I go into her backstory, let me first say spoiler warning for chapters 9 and of course her event, What the Firelight casts. Chapter 9, she's prominently featured, and so here's your spoiler warning. Alright, let's start. Operator backstory. As a direct descendant of the legendary Terran... I keep saying it wrong. Taran. Yeah. Terra is the world we're in, I believe. So this is Taran, okay. I keep getting him confused. Tauren Gaelic kings possessing the royal Draco bloodline. You're supposed to say it, I think, Lochshini. It's very weird, but that's the way it's said, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure. Lochshini Dublin had been an introverted girl living behind the shadow of her more ambitious elder sister, Eblana. However, her life changed when their parents were unfortunately assassinated by the Aslan forces amidst a bloody Christmas and the purge of her hometown, County Oak Grove. Thanks to their bloodline, the sisters were then raised up by other aristocrats supporting Tauren separatism and were educated by a nationalistic noble, the Earl of Warwick. By the time Eblana founded the Dublin Armed Forces 7 years ago, the year 1091, the indecisive girl was forced to be a shadow of her, taking the role of its pseudo-leader. Years of killing made Lochshini weary of herself, and she has been wishing to end her own life, despite the support from her followers. A life-changing event occurred when she conducted the sacking of County Hillock, when an Originium dirty bomb shelling was ordered by Colonel Hamilton almost ended her life, as she contracted severe erypathy. She was rescued by elite operator Outcast, who then sacrificed herself to allow Bagpipe time to escape with Lochshini to Rhodes Island. That's pretty much Chapter 9, I believe. Chapter 9 of the main theme. After these events, Lochshini decided to walk a new path, embracing her Tauren identity, leading the Tauren common folk and ending the Victorian crisis that plagues the Taurens as well. No longer the shadow of her sister, she will walk a different path, and others will follow. Alright, that was a lot. So... Alright, moving on. Debut event and banner. Her playable debut was What the Firelight Casts, and her banner was To Bloom from a Dim Flame. Alright, moving on. Her module. Her module is Incantation X, a floral garland to the red dragon. It's a pretty good module. It's a decent module. It's not a must-have module like Logos module or something that it makes their character even more powerful. It's a nice quality of life module. I have stage 1. It's okay. I just got it for because the lore or something, even though I could just read it on the wiki, but it's okay. It's not bad, but it doesn't make her really a lot more effective at what she already does. So her HP gets increased and her attack gets increased. Her traits improved. Attacks deal arts damage and heal the HP of an ally with an attack range for 60% of the damage dealt instead of 50%. So she heals a little more. It's great, but her healing is pretty good anyways. So stage 2, her attack 140, HP 145, and her attack 42. So the stages, each stage. The 105, you're not actually getting 105 plus 145 by upgrading, you're just getting 40. So you go from 105 to 145. So you're just getting 40 attack, or 40 HP. So it'd be kind of crazy if you got 145 extra HP, so I just want to clear up any confusion just in case. Reflected Shine is one of her talents. It's improved. When healing an ally, healing effect is increased by 3%, and Raid the Flame Shadow heals herself for 55% of the amount healed. It's nice, but it's not super needed. She just heals the ally a little bit more, and she heals herself, but she already heals herself pretty well, so if you want to upgrade it, feel free. I have stage 1. I don't really think it's worth the instruments for stage 3, as it requires... I typically am running low on instruments when I'm upgrading modules, so it is up to you, but it's not exactly bad. I just don't think it's needed, really. Alright, talents. Talent 1, Cinder, improves at pot 3 when dealing damage, 30% chance to inflict Cinder, attack minus 20%, 30% arts fragility, does not stack, lasts 6 seconds. So, when this inflicts, she will minus their attack, so they do less damage by 20%. and she will give them a arts fragility effect of 30%. So they now will take more arts damage. So they're basically more susceptible to arts damage. But it does not reduce their resistance. So they still have the same resistance, but it will make them take more arts damage in general. It's a nice debuff, but yes, it does not help her against her main problem, which is high resistance enemies. As it has no, it just takes, so if they have, let's say, 90 resistance, and you have 30%, you're doing more damage, right? You're doing 30% more damage of arts with arts fragility for arts. But they have 90 resistance, they're still gonna take like no damage because they have 90 resistance. Unlike Res Shred, which would be like a flat number, which would be like minus 20 resistance, a flat number like that, or it could be a percentage like minus 25% of their resistance. Either way, this is not that, it just gives them a fragile effect that means they take more arts damage. But it does not help her lower their resistance in the first place. But it will stack, Arts Fragility will stack with other fragile effects such as Suzerain's Skill 3, because it's technically a separate fragile. So it's fragile and then there's Arts Fragile. So they stack together. I don't know why, but they do. Her second talent, Reflected Shine, improves at pot 6. This is the thing we went over in her module. When healing an ally, Read the Flame Shadow heals herself for 50% of the amount healed. There's not much to say. She heals herself. So whenever she's healing an ally, so she's doing damage, she will heal herself, which is nice, I guess. I mean, it's nice, but there's not much else to say about it. It's nice. It allows her to stay alive, but typically the problem is that she will take too much damage and then she'll just get one shot, so then it doesn't really matter how much she heals then. So it's good though, but there's not much else to say about it. For mastery recommendations, I recommend skill 2, mastery 3, high arts DPS skill with a large amount of healing but requires careful positioning. Skill 2 is her fireball skill. She will basically place on 2 units 3 fireballs that will spin around them, and then anyone who comes in contact with that unit will basically take arts damage. It's really good and it will heal that unit, so any damage that the fireballs do will heal the unit that the fireballs are on, unless they're an enmity unit like Juggernauts or Solo Blades that can't be traditionally healed, but it will still do damage. The problem is that you have to put her, just like placing her anyways, you have to put her in an area where she can put the fireballs on people and then have those people get the fireballs that will actually work. So let's say, you know, I put her down and then it puts 2 fireballs and it puts fireballs on people, and then I have somebody in front fighting the enemies, and the fireballs literally don't do anything because they aren't on the right people. So that might be an issue, so that's why it's positioning dependent. And then skill 3, mastery 3, this is her signature skill for large groups of enemies, as she can quickly defeat one enemy, causing a chain reaction of subsequent explosions. This skill is great against mobs and groups of enemies, as she can basically like chain a bunch of them together. Other than that though, it also procs Cinder, which is her first talent, which is nice as it's a guaranteed proc. Other than that, I only put skill 2 a little bit above it, but truly you can kind of just pick which one you want. I think skill 2 is a little better, but skill 3 is very good too. So really, I mean, it's up to you. And then skill 1 is very basic. It's an attack increase and a attack speed increase, which is okay, but that's all it is. So there's not much else to say about it. Alright, skill 1. Swift Strike Y, auto recovery, manual trigger 35 seconds, initial SP 15, cost 35, duration 35 seconds, attack plus 45%, and attack speed plus 45. She attacks faster and she does more damage. That's it. Alright, next. Wither and Thrive. Auto recovery, manual trigger, 15 to 20 second skill, initial SP 18, cost 27, duration 20 seconds. Prioritizing ground operators gives 2 allies 3 fireballs with the following effect. Every 1.5 seconds deals 240% of Read the Flame Shadow's attack as arts damage to an enemy, triggering her trait, but only on that ally. So basically she will heal, but only on that ally with the fireballs. It's a nice skill for arts DPS. The biggest thing, like I said earlier, is it will have trouble, but it's completely position dependent. You have to have people to put it on, and she needs enemies to be in range of the fireballs. But it can also be applied to like solo blades and juggernauts and reapers, the people who cannot be healed normally, but it will not heal them. But it will still do damage, and it cannot be applied to summons. The way it chooses people for the fireballs are ground operators, then ranged, and then Read herself if no tiles are available. Typically you're going to want to put it on ground, as that's what it's mainly for, but I guess it could be used on ranged tiles. Yeah, so positioning dependent, very high damage, very good. Doesn't have a lot of duration though, so that's a little bit of a weakness there. It doesn't really last as long as I would hope, so the damage can be cut off kind of abruptly, and you have to have enemies in the first place to get hit by the fireballs, and they have to be in range of them. So alright, skill 3. Ember of Life. Auto recovery, manual trigger 30 seconds. Initial SP 30, SP cost 40, duration 30 seconds. Attacks hit 2 enemies, attack plus 60%, talent 1 activation chance increases to 100%, enemies with the Cinder effect take 60% of Read the Flame Shadow's attack as arts damage per second, and when defeated, deal 140% of attack as arts damage and inflict Cinder to nearby enemies. Cinder lasts until this skill expires. In short, basically, she hits 2 enemies, she has extra attack, her Cinder effect has a guaranteed chance to every attack she will proc that, so they will have a minus 20% attack, and they will take 30% more arts damage without potentials. And then, because they have Cinder, they will now take her attack, 60% of her attack as arts damage per second as a damage over time effect, and then when they die, they will blow up basically, and inflict they will do a lot of damage as arts damage, and then they will inflict Cinder to other enemies, and then it will just chain and chain and chain. It will continue going until everything is dead. It really is good on groups of enemies, as it can quickly just the plus 30% damage from Cinder, and then it just goes between everybody, and they're going to be consistently taking damage per second. I mean, it's very powerful against groups. She can chain explosions together to cause more, great against waves, but any Cinder debuff before the skill is used will not change to match the duration of the skill. So let's say she hits an enemy and they have Cinder on them. They have the effect around them. It will still last 6 seconds, but it will not, and then I activate the skill, it will not just retroactively match the skill. So they won't now, if they had Cinder before I activated skill, they won't start taking arts damage per second and then will blow up. They won't do that because I had the Cinder effect before I activated the skill. It has to be by the skill. Alright. Next, operator synergies. Moinar, like our last operator overview, synergizes a little bit with Reed actually due to his taunt, because he can draw fire away from her. She can also apply the fireballs on Moinar, even if he's not blocking. So when Moinar's building up his talents, or his trait, and he's waiting for his trait to charge, he doesn't block or attack, which means enemies can walk past him, but you can actually use her skill 2 on him. So if you just have another unit behind Moinar, you could actually have the enemy, I think, hit by both fireballs as well. So both sets, since it would be on Moinar, but he's not blocking, and it would be on another unit like a defender or somebody else. So that means they might take, I think, double damage or even more. I mean, they'll take damage. You could also use them on operators like, I think, Ethan, or like specialists like ambushers who I don't think they have any block. I think. So then I think you should be able to use the skill on them as well. Just like Moinar, they'll walk past them, but they will still take all the damage from the fireballs, I think. So, other than that, operators that lower the enemy's resistance drastically improve Read the Flame Shadow's arts damage, as she has no way to lower res herself, which causes her to struggle against high res enemies, even with the arts fragility effect from Cinder, as the fragile effect just increases the arts damage they take, but it does not lower their resistance at all. Operators that can debuff resistance are Logo's second talent. It affects his basic attacks, which will minus resistance, which is great. Aya's second skill, which will minus resistance by a percentage. Logo's second talent minuses it by a flat number, which is, I think, minus 10, and then they take more damage. Aya's skill 2 minuses it by a percentage. It's 25% of their resistance, I think, at Mastery 3. Ifrit's first talent, I think, is minus 45% of their resistance if they're in her range. The problem is Ifrit has a straight line of range, so it's sometimes difficult to get her in a way that she can hit the enemy without them just moving out of her range. Her skill 3 also minuses resistance, so. And Texas the Omertosa, or Texas Altar, her skill 2 will minus it by 30% percentage. So. And then Fragile effects, like Suzerain's second talent and skill 3, amplify all sources of damage taken, which should boost Reed's damage output. Technically, Suzerain helps everybody, but still. It helps because she does arts damage, so Reed will now do more damage, especially with her Cinder debuff giving her more damage, so you could, and because they're separate types of fragility, they can both stack. Soraya also increases arts damage taken with her skill 3 and slows enemies, but it's not stated as arts fragility, so I think it should stack with Reed's Cinder, but I'm not sure. So take that with a grain of salt. Alright. Operator criteria. Subjective. I personally like this character. This is, so just like I went over this in my Moinar video, this is kind of my way of grading, I guess. This is the way I pull for characters. Typically, I just go for mainly subjective, and then the objective is more for people who need just like facts. Like, do you need the character for this reason? How good are they? You know, stuff like that. What do they bring to the table? Why would you want to pull for them? Subjective is everything that's not that. So if you like the characters for their design, lore, artwork, voice, presence and story, faction, character relations, her sister, style, etc. It's any reason you can think of that isn't just the numbers and what she brings to the stage. My notes. Lakshini Dublin Reed is a great character with advanced story appearances, wonderful art, a talented voice actor, and a powerful operator all in one. She's a worthwhile addition to any roster. Reed may have a long way to go, but she now has a new purpose, leading the Terran refugees in search of their new homeland and freeing them from oppression. Reed's flame may fade one day, but she lives on in the shadows cast by the firelight. Alright. Objective. This is when you need them to fulfill a specific role in your squad. So she has a unique branch, incantation medic, healing, DPS, arts damage, arts debuff with the cinder, synergies with other arts lowering, I guess, operators, extremely high arts damage, and she has the AoE effect on her skill 3. And of course, the most important factor, she is smiling in her E2 art. I'm pretty sure in the terms and conditions it has a line about that. You have to promote her at least E2. You don't have to promote her anymore if you don't want to. But I'm pretty sure it says there in the fine print, you have to promote her just because she's smiling, and that's a big step. If you don't, I'm pretty sure they can ban you. So I would just go ahead and be on the safe side and just upgrade her to E2. Because if you're not, I don't know what you're doing. Like, I don't want to get banned. I don't make the rules. Okay. On a more serious note, Read the Flame Shadow is a powerhouse unit who can deal some extremely high arts damage and healing at the same time, while also debuffing the enemy, making them more susceptible to arts damage. On the flip side, she has some problems requiring careful positioning to maximize her effectiveness, enemies in range for her to attack, for her to heal at all due to her trait, and she's fragile with low HP and defense, but good res. I really need to make these lower. Alright, conclusion. Read the Flame Shadow is a powerful addition to any roster while also being a mechanically unique branch. She pairs both extremely high healing and arts damage in the same kit, but can struggle due to her relying on careful positioning to get the most out of her, which due to the nature of some stages can be quite difficult to pull off. Some stages you will not have enough space or lanes to cover enough. It can be such a pain. When it does work, it's great, but it can be tricky. For trivia, her leitmotif, Flame Shadow, according to Reed, her codename symbolizes her as a nondescript existence. Her real name, Lochshiny, is taken from a coastal village in northern County Dublin, Ireland, known for its wetland biomes, which fits both her codename and her origin in Dublin. Reed the Flame Shadow is the first 6-star alternate operator who is available outside of limited headhunting. Reed the Flame Shadow's Ian voice actor Martha McIntosh also voices Melina in Elden Ring. You should play Elden Ring, it's really good. And Melina is one of the main characters that sort of goes along with you in your journeys through the Lands Between. I mean, she talks to you, and she's more consistent. There's not a ton of NPC interactions, but like, she is one of the main ones, since she's gonna give you the ability to level up and stuff. And Reed the Flame Shadow's appearance and character are sometimes compared to Violet Evergarden. Alright. I really need to lower some of the text sometimes. The next one is gonna be Viviana. So stay tuned for that one. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next video. Have a good day.
Ah, Doctor. Yes, some things never change. There's a lot more I can do for you now. More than secretarial work. I won't be opposed to fighting anymore. But still, to be here, writing for you is a great honor of mine. It's getting dark. Around this hour, there'd be people walking leisurely along the grey pavements. Perhaps foul beasts gathering by the ponds. That is the Tara I remember. It's no special thing, but neither has it truly existed before. Doctor, I believe everyone should have a home to welcome them back. In my spare time, I still like prose and poetry, both reading and writing. And I like to hear others sing. I know a few folk songs, very pretty ones, but no record has been made of them. Doctor, have you ever heard how the stems of reeds can be used as whistles? Yes, the reeds that would burn away the brush of a flame. Not a word needed. It's always so tranquil by your side. The poems I've transcribed, I can read them to you if you're interested. It's okay if you don't understand Tehran. Perhaps you'll still feel the emotions touch. In honesty, it's hard to even tell whether your battles are victories, given your dreams still lie so far, far away. But at times like these, it strikes me. Perhaps we may all see the day when peace comes. I can't make myself out to be a comrade of yours. There are some by your side that surely hate me. But once Dublin no longer needs these raging, burning flames, then I'll come back here. I want to come back here. My mind's not at peace, Doctor. Is my every choice truly right? Their lives stoke our flames in the night. Yet, in the end, if they fail to burn through the darkness, no, why should their lives even be mine to dictate? But still, I will walk on. Now, I bear a duty, and I will walk on.